upbringing. You're from New Jersey. What was it like growing up in that part of the area?
So when people think of New Jersey, I think they think like big cities, crowded people. But me and my brother grew up across the street from the beach, so we were pretty much like beach bums. So growing up here was great, every day. And growing up with a big brother who was a professional wrestler, in the summertime we'd be wrestling in the water, me and throwing me and all my friends over waves. And um yeah, growing up with my brother was a blast, man. He was always so cool. And it's funny, even when we were little playing wrestling in the backyard, I would be like Big John Studd and he'd be Doug Summers, and he'd always put me over.
Wow.
Unless, or he'd be like Kamala. And when he was Kamala, he'd give me the nerve pinch and kick the shit out of me. But yeah, growing up with my brother was great, man. He always like took me around with him, and he always wrestled, hung out. He was the man.
So he was already wrestling by the time you were born.
Yeah, so just about like he became just like one track obsessed with wrestling and training, and like that's it, right? So he started going to the Monster Factory around like even before that. He was already going to shows, setting up rings, taking
Mm-hmm.
bumps when he's like 11, 12 years old. um when he was 13, he was at the Monster Factory, and he wanted to have wrestling in our town. And he went to a town council meeting and had this whole proposal, and there was no way they would let us do it today, but back then he was able to get wrestling in Marucci Park in Spring Lake. He got the ring from the Monster Factory, and Bam Bam Bigelow is from. He's 9 years older than my brother, so my brother was 13. Bammer would have been 22. Um, Bammer's from like 5 miles north of us. Um, Balls Mahoney, his real name's John. He was my brother's age. So there was all like up and coming wrestlers and like some kids on the show, and my brother would have these shows, and they would donate the money to like they'd find a charity and donate the money to charity or something like that. They'd like pass around the can to everyone. Um, so yeah, he started running and promoting his own shows when he was 12, 13, 14,
Wow.
15.
Yeah.
And it just became like just he just had blinders on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like that young, he was obsessed with wrestling. He just was hooked right away.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't think I've ever loved anything in my life as much as my brother loved the sport of professional wrestling. And like I said, he would when he would, like, again, before he even had a license or anything, he would tell my mom that he was sleeping at his friend Scott's house. His buddy Scott would tell the mom they're sleeping here. They would take a bus, go to Brooklyn, and wrestle at like Brooklyn indie shows in Brooklyn.
Mhm.
Get on a bus and come back, and that's like fucking that's insane. They were like little kids doing this stuff. So yeah, just totally one track minded. The only other job he ever had. So like I said, we grew up across the street from the beach, and during the summer, they call us locker boys. When you're like 12, 13, 14,
Mhm.
15, you can work at the beach, sleeping off the steps and like shit like that. So he would like take all his little money that he'd make during the day as a locker boy, and buy gear and new stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, just totally. And then as he got older, 16, 15, 16, 17, became obsessed with training, lift heavy every day. That's pretty much was his focus: lifting, training, wrestling. And he was, no, he's just super cool. It was really awesome growing up with him. Our childhood was like pretty much idyllic. I have a funny story. You
Yeah.
ever heard? You're younger, but the wrestler, the Great Muda.
Yes.
He spit
Legend.
the right.
Hmm.
So my brother used to stalk around the house. He'd go and get the food coloring from my mom's pantry. He'd put some green, normally food coloring, in his mouth, and stalk me around the house. And I'd come around the corner, and he'd Muda missed me, right? So on the on the day of one of our sisters' baptisms, I get my suit. So our house is 4 floors, and the fourth floor is his, right? And he had like a hangout room, and then he had like another room. Like as a kid, his room was like it was like Mecca to me, you know. So it's about to be my sister's baptism. I get in my suit and everything, and I go running up the stairs to show him how nice I look. I open his door. As soon as I open the door, he covers me in the green Muda mist in my suit. And he's like, "Oh, dude, mom's gonna freaking kill me." He like picks me up, washes all the green Muda mist off me, right? So again, this is probably I'm 7, he's 17. Nobody knows that he got my suit. A couple days later, I went and got the food coloring. I climbed up there, I got it. I ran up into his room, busted the door open in the middle of the night. He's in bed. I see two heads pop out of bed. Him and some chick. He was like making out with some chick in the bed. And I ran over and went and spit the food coloring. A tiny bit got on him, but it all got on her. And I
Oh
booked it.
no. Oh
I went
no.
down his stairs, the other stairs, and he caught me on the porch and kicked the shit out of me.
Oh
But
gosh.
but yeah, we always tell that story. Um,
Wow.
it was worth it because we the ass kicking I took that day was worth it because I had stories forever about that. We always laugh about it
That's
because a
hilarious.
little tiny bit got on him, but it covered this chick Dana. And
Jeez.
he,
I'm so sorry that happened to her. Wow.
well, yeah, I'm sure she was like, "Who's this crazy kid running up here spitting blue shit in my face?"
Goodness.
But
Yeah, okay, so it seemed like he was really into wrestling from such a young age, wanted to do it, and I know you were trained under him too. Were you a fan? Did you become a fan on your own? Did he get you into it? How did you get involved with professional wrestling?
so like me and him were like always together. He went when he was in WWE. I was a little kid running around the locker room in WWE. When he was in ECW, same thing. And I just figured that when I got old enough, I'd be a wrestler too. So I'll say around like 2019, 20, I started getting in the ring before matches, taking bumps. And then my first match, me and it was just the two of us. We drove to Rochester and we get to the building and he's like, I don't really know any of these people. I'm just gonna wrestle you tonight. I'm like, is that cool? He's like, yeah. Just keep your ears open. For the finish, I'll miss the diving headbutt, feet up for a chair shot, 1, 2, 3. I'm like, okay. So I just kind of had my first match just on the fly with him. And then I got comfortable. I never had like official training sessions per se. It was kind of like on the job training. Like, I remember like when he'd be like, boom, duck the clothesline, rolling suplexes. And I remember when I first took the rolling suplexes, you're lifted up in the air and your instinct is to like get to a base. So I like got to an amateur wrestling base. He just grabbed me. He's like, just tuck your chin and go with it. I'm like, okay. So then he hit me with 3 rolling suplexes. He did it again. Like again, everything was just kind of like
Repetition,
learn.
repetition. Yeah.
Yeah, just learn on the fly. I think my first, I'm gonna say around 7, 8 matches were against my brother. Just like learning
Mhm.
from him. And then I started wrestling John Balls, and like it's a lot easier working with guys that you know. And then that's how I kind of got into the business just by working with them, and then getting more comfortable in the ring and everything.